I came to the realization that it's not the technology that drives the change, it's the customers leveraging the technology that's going to drive the change. So we stopped focusing as a business on technology and started focusing on the customer.
Welcome to the Thrive Podcast. I'm Bill Potter, your host, and I'm dedicated to guiding founders and entrepreneurs on their path to success. So let's dive into today's blueprint for success. Technology is an ever-evolving beast. Today we have Pete DiSalvo. Pete, I'm going to be diving into the latest trends, their impact, and how companies can navigate this dynamic landscape. But I'll start with you first, Kevin. The tech world is awash with innovations on a daily basis. What's your take on the current big waves that are shaping the future of technology?
Yeah, I think there's a real opportunity to fall into a trap here because there are lots of headlines. There's this constant influx of change and expectations for change around technology and how technology is going to transform everybody's lives. And I think you have to take a measured approach to that. There are things that are going to be extremely impactful, and the unpredictable element in all of it is when are we going to actually start seeing the impacts that are predicted? And there are oftentimes those impacts come much later than was anticipated, but there's the exact opposite. And that's exactly what we're talking about here with it being such a dynamic world where things come faster than we anticipated them to come, and things take longer to come. So it takes a keen eye, and it takes more than just reading the headlines to really try to understand what's going to be impactful and when it's going to be impactful. But you also have to know and recognize and understand that no matter how much time you spend trying to understand what the next big wave is going to be, you're not going to predict it right. If any of us sitting at this table could predict what the next big change is going to be, we probably wouldn't be sitting at this table.
A very good point, Pete.
Yeah, and there's to recognize a few of these waves that I've seen recently. Crypto, obviously, Web 2.0. Now there's a lot of talk about AI, but these are technologies that you hear all the buzz and they kind of pop up, consume everything temporarily. Then you don't hear it in the news. Doesn't mean they go away. So like Web 2.0 is still a concept. People are still using crypto to develop new technology. It still exists. It's just not headline news. And it's kind of these cycles that come and go. And my perspective is grabbing the pieces of technology that bring value to your product or even your team internally, that ultimately bring value to your customers, aligning with your mission. So we don't hop on trends, but we do follow the latest technology. And so we're on this not slow ride, but this gradual ride, and not necessarily on a wave.
Mm-hmm. Well, one thing that we hear about all the time is AI. Such as Tesla with automated pilot driving from point A to point B, blockchain, quantum computing. Where do you see the technology landscape ahead for data capable?
Yeah, I think I could sit here and try to prognosticate on what those trends are and which ones we should jump onto. But I think it's important to try to understand the undercurrent that's associated with those headlines and make sure that you aren't wedding yourself too hard to any single one of these items. You have to have a strategy of diversification.
Well, that's what I want to touch on. Either one of you, how do you believe that aspiring entrepreneurs in the tech space, how should they decide which trends to adopt and which ones to watch from the sidelines?
It's really important to, when you're an early entrepreneur, to avoid jumping on these trends. And I saw it a lot with the latest AI trend, where all these companies pop up and they're all looking for investment because they have this great idea, but most of them are built on some common technology. So there's nothing unique. It's like they're reusing technology that everybody else can use in a unique way, but it's important to create your own unique spin on it, more than just a different application of it. Some secret sauce that you can add to it.
And I think to build off from that is you can't create too much of a dependency on those early emerging technologies, because ultimately what you see today is not necessarily what you're going to see in 6 months from now. And we really are talking about that truncated of a timeline of something that you thought was the next great thing and it was going to transform your business, and jumping in with both feet and not measuring and thinking about and really trying to understand what those impacts are set you up to be on this roller coaster of technology, right? Like it's really easy to jump on, but the climbs and the falls can ultimately result in your business being whiplashed back and forth, and nobody having a strong sense of who the business is and what the business direction is.
Yeah, I agree. When we were at Message Broadcast, one of the favorite sayings we had is pioneers end up with broken wagon wheels. And so I definitely see the sense of capitalizing on what's already making waves rather than pioneering. But in terms of pushing the boundaries of technology, having the financial, intellectual resources, I mean, there's a time and place for pioneering, but in practice, I think that it really makes sense to master the fundamentals of the current waves that are out there.
Yeah, and I think it's important to try a lot of things, and some of them will stick and be beneficial. I'm guilty of this myself, where I see a trend in technology, I'm like, damn, like I missed it. Why wasn't I thinking of that? But I'm looking at the success story, and there's so many other stories you don't hear that are more realistic.
Right. Well, we've seen technological breakthroughs dramatically change the fate of companies, as you were describing, Kevin. Can you share a personal anecdote, story, and observation about such transformative tech moments?
Yeah, I mean, I think where we start though is you have to have a foundation in your business and fundamentals in your business, so that you can adapt and change in a way that creates positive impact for your business. We were one of the very we can't say we were one of the first, but we adopted AI early on, but we were very thoughtful about how we adopted AI, about what the current limitations are of the AI, and trying to understand, when those limitations are going to change, because it is all evolving rapidly. But you also have to continue to look at and measure that, because crypto is a perfect example, right? That was going to revolutionize the financial industry, and all of these giant Fortune 500 companies were scrambling to try to understand, how are we going to adjust our business, because the revolution is coming. Where are we sitting today? How much effort and investment was wasted trying to jump on that bandwagon? And it's the very same thing for us on a different scale internally. Like, yes, we need AI. Yes, it's fundamental to us to be able to do what we do as a business, but ultimately, if you're setting it in motion, letting it go and not keeping an eye on it, you're going to fall into these pitfalls.
And it's not always about creating some new innovative technology internally for your solution or product, but also using technology that's available And a good example, well, there's a lot of good examples related to marketing in how easy it is to create marketing content visually and the copy with AI. It's a game changer. And some of the tools we're exploring now allow you to create video with a realistic person speaking different languages, and you can maintain it programmatically. So you don't have to keep refilming these every time you have a feature update. And just like, here it is in every language in 5 minutes, it's updated.
Names like, obviously artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, and blockchain have become almost commonplace. How do you think these giants are influencing the offerings and decisions of today's tech enterprises? I mean, clearly you're using AI extensively in some of your products. I know that we've been using it to deploy improved customer experiences through chatbots and virtual assistants. Where do you see the future of that for Data Capable?
There's no question that it's going to become a bigger and bigger part of our business, and one of the driving forces behind that is efficiency. Efficiency is your key to profitability, and applying that lens when you're looking at technologies. How does this create efficiency? How does this drive value for our customers? You have to ask those questions, and you have to be able to answer them to some level of satisfaction if you're going to make that investment.
And I would say these big tech companies are leading the charge in a lot of this innovation because they have the money, the resources, and the time to create this, and they're marketing it. So it creates this wave in a lot of ways.
Good. The pace at which technology evolves is mind-boggling. How can companies foster consistent innovation without risking becoming obsolete or burning out?
I've got a good answer for this one. We don't do it at Data Capable today, but it's something I'd like to. In previous companies I've been a part of, tech companies have done it, where they encourage everybody within the company for 3 days to follow the lean startup process. And so teaching everybody at every level in the company how to innovate, test, fail quickly, and come up with new ideas, but a whole process. And in one way, you're teaching your team how to go create their own company, but at the same time, it's a great way for your own company to innovate. And I don't mind encouraging people to go start their own business if that's what they want to do. And these skills are useful for everybody, so I encourage it as well.
Yeah, but the key to building innovation into your business is creating a culture of safety. The mistake that I see so often over and over again is driving this message of innovation into the business, but not accepting the risk that is associated with innovation and killing it as it's just budding because you weren't ready and you weren't aligned as a team about the impacts, and having it be acceptable, not only acceptable, but expected that there will be failure. Like, it's not just saying it's okay to fail. It's, no, I expect you to fail, and you aren't pushing hard enough if you aren't failing.
Great point. Kevin, it'd be great to hear about a time when adopting or perhaps resisting a burgeoning trend had an impact on a project or a company you were with. I know there's a lot of innovation at Data Capable, but you also come from the utility industry, which is probably not known for a lot of innovation. But if you can share a story about that time, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Utilities by design are risk averse. If you look at utilities from a financial and investment perspective, they're not known to be this explosive growth investment opportunities. They're made to be the stable part of your portfolio, right? And you have investment, you have shareholders that are holding tight reins on the utility, taking risk. You have regulators who haven't gotten to the point where they're allowing the utilities to take risk. And then you have executives that are trying to meet the expectations of the regulator. You have trying to meet the expectation of the shareholder. So you don't have an environment that fundamentally, because of what the utility business is, it's not a business of innovation. And we, as an industry, we've spent the last 10 to 15 years just trying to figure out how we talk about innovation in our business. And that pitfall I was talking about earlier is not having that culture. You know, I was fortunate enough to sit at a high leadership position in the organization, and I'm an innovative thinker by nature, and I was trying to drive innovation into the business and not understanding why I couldn't drive innovation into the business, and finally realizing that I hadn't done anything to create the environment for innovation. I've just told everybody it's time to innovate, and I've told everybody that our business and our industry is changing, and I didn't help people understand why it's changing and the pace that it's changing at. So I was pushing rope all day trying to drive innovation into the business and failing over and over again. So if innovation is a new concept, start with something small. You know, start a pilot project. Put it in its own world outside of the confines of the rest of the business, and find your model. Test, fail, test, fail. I'm classically trained as a scientist. My background, my degree is in science. So how did I end up at a tech company, right? How did I end up with innovation? Well, I took that scientific methodology and I've taken it and applied it in all of these different places. You form a hypothesis, you test your hypothesis. You almost never are right with the first hypothesis, right? So change your hypothesis, test again. Ultimately, you have to have the environment that's conducive to taking those actions and doing that.
Well, I found, obviously, Data Capable is a prime example of this, that you come from a utility industry that is conservative, very traditional in its approach to innovation. And you joined a tech company. But therein lies the great opportunity for technology entrepreneurs. We have been, in my career, I've been in every industry, in terms of supporting that from a technology standpoint. And therein lies the opportunity that utilities don't innovate on that level of customer engagement, but they rely on us tech entrepreneurs to be able to do that, and therein lies the great opportunity to grow and meet that demand that they're not going to innovate, but they sure do outsource to those innovation leaders.
Yeah, that's a great point. And sometimes you may think, like, as a vendor to a utility, we're not the expert. They must be. They're in it every day, but it's actually the opposite, because they're an expert at their utility, but we're at every trade show, every conference, talking to everybody, and we bring that to them, like, hey, this is what everyone else is doing. Have you thought of that? And that's really helpful for them.
Yeah, I think you have to recognize, the confines and the constraints that the people in the utility are faced with. And it's not that they don't want to change. It's not that they don't want to evolve. It's not that they don't want to innovate. They don't know how to. It's that simple.
It's not in their DNA.
They don't know how to do it. And therein lies the opportunity, and that's exactly why I'm at Data Capable and not inside the utility, because I felt stifled there, and I saw an industry that needs change, desperately needs change, and I couldn't see a path to how I influenced that change from my role inside of the utility, and I was fortunate enough to move through the utility with different roles and different levels of authority, and every time I made the move, I said the next move is going to be the one that I will be in the position to create the change that I want. I want for the company, I want for the business, I want for the industry. And I finally came to the realization that if I want to create the change that I want to see in the industry, I've got to attack it from a different angle, and it has to be in the role of influence.
Great point. On the flip side, obviously, you've talked about capitalizing on the trends, the waves that already exist, rather than experimentation. Can you recount an instance where deliberately not jumping on the latest tech bandwagon proved to be a smart decision?
I've got one. One of the underlying technologies our development team used to use was called Angular. And this is years ago now, but at some point they released Angular 2.0. We're like, this is amazing. Like, we need to use this. And we were busy at the time and never got around to upgrading to 2.0, which in the short term didn't seem like a good idea. It's tech deck, we need to upgrade. But sure enough, there was a new wave of technology behind it that turned out to be better for us. And we've left that in the dark. Glad we never spent time upgrading to the next level, and now we're so far past that.
Well, and I think you've put your finger on a really good point there, in that if you're always trying to be on the next version, you are always going to be consumed by being on the next version. So you have to make really good strategic decisions on when you're going to make that jump. Because if you're just jumping and jumping and jumping, that's all you're ever doing is jumping, and you're not actually innovating or improving or driving more value from the product. You're doing everything you can just to maintain status quo.
What kind of feedback do you guys get from your clients as to what their expectation of innovation is? Is it just a collaborative relationship, or are they actually looking to you to tell them what the next trend is going to be to improve their operations?
The answer is yes. It's both. It's absolutely both. And I think for it to work well and be successful, it has to be both. It has to be understanding the problems and challenges, and then ideating on what the solutions and the possibilities of solutions can be. And ultimately, like, if they have buy-in to that process that you're working, it makes it a much easier adoption for them when that technology does become available. So if there are touch points in your process where you can bring your customer into that, there is a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of opportunity that will present itself because of it.
Yeah, and sometimes one of the challenges we see with our customers is they could have this amazing new product that we offer or new feature, but they need to get their team to adopt it. And people are habitual, and they have the tools they want to use, and they don't want a new one. And they have a bunch of them. So it's not always just about having this new awesome thing. Adoption is really important too.
Well, and if you don't recognize that technology is tightly coupled with process, it's very easy to have the technology get ahead of the process, and it becomes the technology's fault that the process didn't evolve. So they have to go hand in hand. When we start thinking about how we're going to implement a new product for a customer, we take the time to understand what are the underlying processes, because we know those have to evolve, and the utility may or may not recognize how much they have to evolve. So there is this intersection between process and technology. Ultimately, it's easy to point the finger at the new technology that came in, because the business process is what the business process has always been. So how do you? It becomes a question of how do you bring your customer along to make sure that A, the technology can deliver value early on in the investment cycle, and B, how does the business continue to evolve to continue to get that value from the technology.
And to piggyback on that, I've got this example in my head where the lesson learned is you have to really understand the value the customer is getting from the product they're purchasing, because there was a scenario where there's this website, broadcastify.com, so you can listen to police and fire audio over the internet. And we thought, like, revolutionary. We can automate all of that. You don't have to listen. We'll transcribe it and send you alerts when you should tune in and listen. Sounds amazing. But the company we were targeting had plenty of budget to just have people listen. So they don't care. Budget wasn't a concern. So they weren't looking to save the money. So although it's a great idea, there just wasn't an appetite to pay for it.
Well, that's great feedback. At the risk of, I understand that you're very focused on process and working with existing technologies, but at the risk of taking you into the future, way into the future, as we look ahead, what's your forecast? What's the next groundbreaking technology trend that you believe will redefine tomorrow? And not necessarily for data capable, but just in general. Where do you see technology taking the utility industry into the future?
The utility industry is in a position where they have less and less control of everything that they had control of historically. So they were the single option for customers. There wasn't an option for the customer to not be connected to the grid or for the customer to interact with the grid. It was a waterfall flow, right? Like, it starts at the top of the mountain, it flows downhill, it ends up in the ocean being the customers. It was one-way flow. It was one-way flow of power. It was one-way flow of information. It was one-way communication. That dynamic no longer exists. Customers have choice.
Like solar and batteries?
Yep.
I see.
Exactly. And I think I got to spend a couple of years thinking about innovation, and I started about technology, and technology is going to be what drives change. At the end of my journey in that aspect, I came to the realization that it's not the technology that drives the change, it's the customers leveraging the technology that's going to drive the change. So we stopped focusing as a business on technology and started focusing on the customer and driving change and trying to align change, align technology with where our customers were at. And I think that realization hasn't made itself across the industry yet. There is still a heavy focus on, what is this new technology and how is this technology going to transform our business? It's our customers that are going to transform our business.
Absolutely.
My prediction of the next wave of technology is taking this AI or machine learning chat GPT, similar concept, and connecting that with robots. And we see it today in Amazon warehouses, or pens, robotic pens that will write a handwritten letter just by ordering it online. They're smart, but they're not intelligent. And there's a lot of research happening now that can enable, in the future, these robots to be more intelligent and make decisions and do more than just pick up a box, move it here, and work with each other. So that'll be exciting.
Yeah, I think a interesting example within the utility industry, there has been lots of talk about how technology is going to change it, how we're going to incentivize it with rates, and that we can change customers' behavior based on technology and rates. And I early on took a position that convenience is king, and there isn't enough financial incentive today in the way that everything is structured that you're going to change customer behavior. I'm not going to load my dishwasher and run my dishwasher at midnight because I can save $1. I'm doing the best I can to get the dishes in the dishwasher and get it run, right? So I think that is where technology is going to drive change in the future within the utility industry, is when technology can fill the gap that we're expecting to be filled with people changing their behaviors.
Terrific. Well, I appreciate your time and all your insights. And again, thank you for watching the Thrive podcast. If this episode is of value to you, please share, subscribe, write us a review. And for all the tech founders and entrepreneurs out there, I encourage you to visit our website. Remember, most businesses may encounter periods of stagnation, but our job at Thrive Advisors is to build the right strategy, set it into motion, and steer your venture into a profitable exit. Until next time, thank you again for joining us.